Do you think everything that exists is within your sight? Well, that's one of the biggest illusions we carry. While you go about your daily routine, an invisible battle is taking place around you, influencing your decisions, emotions, and even the simplest moments of your life. Sounds scary? Maybe, but here's the twist. Understanding the spiritual world could be the first step toward radically transforming your life. Have you ever wondered why some things seem beyond logic? That inexplicable deliverance, that strength that arises out of nowhere in tough moments, or even the temptations that cross your path. All of this is part of a dimension that few understand but is present all the time. And the best part, you can learn to see beyond, to protect yourself, and to use this knowledge to your advantage. In this video, you will discover that the spiritual world is much more real than it seems. Get ready to debunk myths, explore stories of impactful visions, and, of course, learn practices that can transform your connection with the divine. Are you ready to open your eyes to a new reality? Have you ever stopped to think that there are more things around us than the eye can see? The spiritual world is like the wind you feel on your face but cannot grasp with your hands. It's a dimension full of life, inhabited by angels working for good and demons trying to steer us away from our purpose. Just like gravity, which we can't see but can feel its force, the spiritual world directly influences our choices, emotions, and even the small details of daily life. Imagine a driver who, without knowing why, decides to take a different route and later discovers they avoided an accident. Coincidence? Maybe not. The invisible work of the spiritual world can manifest in these small decisions, often saving lives. On the other hand, evil forces don't just sit idle. They tempt, distract, and plant thoughts that, if we're not careful, can lead us down a destructive path. That's why it's crucial to recognize that this world exists and directly affects who we are. Not to make us afraid, but to help us act more consciously. Those who understand this invisible battlefield live more strategically, seeking strength from the good side of this dimension. Speaking of strength, how about we explore how this was revealed in ancient and deeply symbolic stories? After all, the lessons of the past have much to teach us about the present. Ancient stories hold precious lessons about how the spiritual world connects with our reality. When Daniel had his vision of the four beasts, he wasn't just contemplating a surreal spectacle, but receiving a divine message about great kingdoms and their impacts on the world. Imagine living in his time and suddenly seeing a winged lion or a bear symbolizing powers that would shape history. It's not just about what he saw, but about how he interpreted and shared it to prepare God's people. Ezekiel was also blessed with a vision that defied human logic. Creatures with multiple faces, wings, and wheels covered in eyes. Every detail of this vision symbolized God's omnipresence and omniscience. This shows that when God reveals something, he speaks in a language rich in symbols, so the message resonates with those ready to receive it. It's like a book full of metaphors you only understand when you're open to learning. And what about John and the book of Revelation? He was taken to a distant future where he saw the final battle between good and evil and the promise of a new Jerusalem. This vision wasn't just a futuristic movie, but a call to hope. Each prophet uniquely saw a piece of this spiritual puzzle. Their stories inspire us to understand that the visions of the past still echo in our present. But what do they have to do with our protection today? Let's find out next. Every day, an invisible battle takes place around us, and the battlefield is our hearts. The Bible is clear in saying that our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces of evil. This reality isn't meant to scare us, but to prepare us. Just as a soldier doesn't go to battle without armor, we too need to put on the armor of God. Faith, prayer, knowledge of the Word. It's a spiritual toolkit that protects us from the invisible arrows the enemy launches. But what does this mean in practice? Think about how doubt can be one of these arrows. When you have faith, that doubt is neutralized before it causes harm. Or when you're about to make an impulsive decision and feel an inexplicable calm, as if a hand were holding yours. That's divine protection in action. It's like an invisible shield that only works when you believe and act based on trust in God. Still, it's important to remember that the fight doesn't happen alone. Just as a team of soldiers fights side by side, we have angels around us, sent to protect us. And more importantly, we have the promise that we are not alone. That's why the spiritual battle shouldn't be seen as a burden but as an opportunity to grow. Now, let's explore how this translates into real stories of people who felt the direct touch of the spiritual world. There are moments in life when the spiritual world becomes so tangible that it's impossible to ignore. A pastor shared a remarkable experience. During an intense moment of prayer, he saw an angel place a crown on his head. It wasn't just a vision, but a divine confirmation of his pastoral calling. Imagine the feeling of receiving such a clear message about your life's purpose. It not only filled him with courage, but gave new meaning to his journey. These testimonies show us that when we are in tune with the spiritual world, great revelations can happen. For example, have you ever felt that you were exactly where you were supposed to be, as if something greater was guiding your steps? That too can be a way God manifests, even if it's not as visible as an angel. Small signs in daily life can be just as powerful as an extraordinary vision. However, it's worth remembering that these experiences are not common and often require a prepared heart and a consistent life of prayer. They are not meant to elevate us, but to remind us that we are part of something greater. And when they happen, they transform us deeply. Now, how can we prepare for these connections with the supernatural? Let's explore the practices that strengthen this connection. Connecting with the spiritual world requires more than desire. It takes discipline and a willing heart. Constant prayer is one of the most powerful practices to strengthen this bond. Daniel prayed for 21 days until he received a divine vision, showing that persistence is key. It's not just about asking, but about creating a dialogue with God, opening your heart, and seeking to understand Him. How about setting aside a few minutes daily for this conversation? Start small but with intention. Additionally, fasting is a form of purification that helps us better hear God's voice. Think of it as a way to silence the noise of the world to hear what truly matters. A practical example is dedicating a day to abstain from something that distracts you, whether it's food, social media, or even routine activities. Use this time to meditate on the Word, and you'll notice how your mind and spirit align. Finally, studying the Bible is like mapping the terrain before a journey. It's the manual that guides our lives, showing what God desires from us. Choose one verse a day to reflect on and apply it to your actions. By doing so, you become more receptive to messages from the spiritual world. After all, grand experiences begin with simple but transformative practices. And believe me, every step in this direction brings more clarity about what lies ahead. Now that you've understood what truly happens in the spiritual world, it's time to put this knowledge into practice. What will you do to strengthen your connection with the divine? What steps will you take to protect your mind and heart from negative influences around you? Think about this. Every small choice, from a sincere prayer to an act of kindness, is a brick in the construction of your spiritual life. If today were the day God wanted to reveal something grand to you, would you be prepared? This is the reflection that should guide your next actions. Are you ready to invest in a deeper relationship with Him? Don't wait any longer. Start praying, fasting, and meditating on the Word now. God has a unique purpose for your life, and the tools to discover it are within your reach. Finally, I want to give you a special invitation. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. This way, you won't miss any content that can transform your life and your way of seeing the spiritual world. Share this video with someone you know who needs to hear this message. After all, when we share the light, it only grows stronger. Why not start right now?